Okay, so we're going to work on the first 8 questions of our review. Okay, so I'm gonna start with number one. Number one, I saw you work on it earlier, and most of you had it correct. It's really simple. It should be B. All squares are similar. Not rectangles, because you can have a rectangle that's 2 by 3 and a rectangle that's 3 by 5, okay, and they will not be similar. Same with parallelograms, which are kind of like rectangles. That kind of gives it away that, hey, if rectangles are not similar, why would parallelograms be similar, right? So all squares, just like we talked before, the equilaterals, triangles, they are always similar anyways. So now we're going to go to number 2. Okay. This one is not as hard as it looks at first. So it's asking you for what the question mark is. So MN, okay, MN, they used it as the numerator, okay, and then they use RS as the denominator, okay. So obviously they're using the smallest of each, the smallest side of each triangle, so MN over RS, and then they give you LN. LN should be the numerator because MN is the numerator, so LN is the numerator. So you find the corresponding side to LN, and that should be QS. You see how it's slanted? So that should be the same QS, so the answer would be QS. And you don't see QS here, but SQ is the same thing, so the answer would be C. Okay? You know, again, at any time, pause it, try to understand what just happened, and go on from there. Now we're going to go to number 3. Okay. Same question as number 2, only I guess different, different, same triangles, but a little bit different. Same thing. Look, so I have an IK, okay, IK. Okay, that's the slanted part, and that one is on top of, that's the numerator. I like to do that, so it kind of gets me thinking. Over JK, so numerator over denominator. Okay, so the slanted part should go with TV, okay, which makes sense. See, TV and IK, they go together. That tells me that this part right here, JV, which is the denominator, should go with VU to make the other denominator. So VU should be the other denominator, and right here VU is D, or UV is the same thing, so the answer should be D. So again, think of numerators, denominators, that they should go together in corresponding sides. Alright, so now we're going to move on to number 4. Once again, at any time, pause me and try to figure out what they're talking about. Alright, so number 4 right here. This one's one that gets confusing for many of you. When they're talking about cannot, some of you, they just find one answer that makes sense, and then you think that that's the answer. Well, in this case it says cannot, meaning 3 of them are good, but 1 of them isn't. Okay, so let's look at A. A has 40 over 20. And you see their corresponding sides, so that's easy to see. 40 over 20, right? So that means that 16 has to be over W in the same order. You see how 16 over W, that makes sense. I like to also double check. See, the 40 and the 16 are numerators, so right here they're numerators. So the other 2 should be denominators, and that works. Alright, so now I'm going to clear this and then go to B. A seemed to be okay then. Now here we go. 40 over 16. That's what that part says. 40 over 16. That means that since this is the numerator and that's the denominator, the 40, since the 40 goes with the 20, this should be the numerator and that should be the denominator. Okay, they got to keep in that same order. But look, right here you have the 40 with the W as numerator, so that is conflicting. Okay, so right there, that tells you that cannot be the answer. Okay, so far we have A looks good, B does not look good. We're still going to move on to the other ones to make sure that they work. So far A looks good, B does not. Let's analyze C. 16 over 40, so you got 16 as the numerator, 40 as the denominator. Okay, so on this side, W has to be the numerator and 20 has to be the denominator because they go together like that. Okay, so we got W here, 20 as the denominator, not numerator, denominator. That seems to work, so that one looks good. And I'm gonna go ahead and do D also with a different color. Okay, so here we go. 16 and W, so 16 is the numerator and W is also the numerator. I'm sorry, is the denominator. So this is the numerator, that's the denominator. That means that 40 needs to be the numerator and 20 the denominator. Okay, yes, 40 is the numerator, 20 is the denominator. Okay, so that tells me that they go together. So obviously the answer is B. Okay, as for number 4, now we're gonna move on to number 5. 5 is, at first it looks intimidating, okay, but it's also easy. You just got to understand about corresponding sides. Okay, corresponding sides. They're asking for, they're asking for VW, which is this, okay. And what we know is that 21 corresponds to 7. Okay, so 21 corresponds to 7. See, 21 is the numerator, 7 is the denominator. Okay, now it looks like 42 corresponds to that missing side. So since 21 is the numerator, 42 has to be the other numerator. Okay, and VW is what we're looking for. Now there's many different approaches to this. The one that I find the easiest is by thinking equivalent fractions. And I can see that 21 times 2 gives me 42. 21 times 2 gives me 42. So that 2 is the scale factor. So that means that 7 times 2 will give me what VW is. So 7 times 2 is 14, and 14 is the answer. Okay, 14 is the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and show you another way. So going back to the 21 over 7 and 42 over x, right? We can multiply those two and then divide it by 21, and guess what you're gonna get? Yep, good guess, 14. You can do it if you want, just to double check. Another way that I can do this, it's a third way actually, okay. Having the 21 over 7, I know that looks ugly, but that's a 2-1. Okay, I can simplify it, and then this is the same as 3 over 1. Okay, and then I have 42 over VW. Okay, so look, what do I need to do to the 3 to get to 42? I multiply times 14, so that's the answer. Or I can say 42 times 1 divided by 3, and that will still be 14. Again, I like to simplify it. It's easier to work whenever you have the simplest forms. So either way, the answer for number 5 is 41. Okay, so now let's go to number 6. Okay. Number 6, at first it looks like it's kind of hard, but it truly isn't. Okay, the key to number 6, hopefully you read it, is that 1 inch represents 2 feet. So 1 inch, okay, it's the same as 2 feet. Well, I don't have 1 inch, I have 7.25. Okay, So again, 1 times 2 gives me 2, so 7.25 times 2 would give me what, however many feet that would be, and in this case is 14.5. Okay. All right. That's number 6, and now we're going to go to number 7. Okay. Next page for number 7. Okay. This one again, really easy when you work as a fraction, but I know that many of you like to work as decimals, so we're gonna work on decimals, and I asked you many times to just memorize 5/8 as a decimal. So since I know that 5/8 is the same as 0.625, well, 3 and 5/8 should be 3 and 6.25. All right. Now, the actual scale tells you that it's 1 inch equals 10 miles. So just like the previous problem, if this is inches and 1 inch is 10 miles, all I gotta do is multiply it times 10, right? In this case, it will be 36.25 because I just rolled a decimal over. Okay, all right. You know, you can set it up as a proportion, but in this case, it was easy because it was 1 to 10, okay, is the same as 3.625 to what? So it's really multiplying it the same way we did here. All right. So either way, the answer is 36.25. So now we'll go to number 8. Okay. Next page. Again, always pause, try to understand it before you move on. Okay, so here we go. This is number 8. This one's kind of confusing at first because when you read, there's no numbers. Then you realize that the picture tells you that that's the scale in miles. It doesn't have to give you what it is. What that means is that distance right here, it's 2 miles. So if I'm looking at Hughesville right here, I'm going to try to put this red part right here, and that's 2 miles. Okay. You know, in this case, it's an approximation, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. So that's 2 miles, so that's another 2 miles, you know. I can use a ruler. If you want to use a ruler, go ahead, but it's an approximation. So this guy right here will be another 2 miles. So this is 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles, and right here another 2 miles, so I'm trying to keep it about the same, and here's another 2 miles. Okay, so it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so it looks like B is the answer. The good thing is that the answers are not too close to each other, you know, and so a good estimate would be about 10 miles. Okay, so again, if you need to watch it again, please do. If you have any more questions, ask me tomorrow, and then tomorrow we're going to go over the last 7 questions.